Hello, Internet. It's Sunny again, and today we're going to be talking about Planned Parenthood and how it affects women positively and negatively. So, first, if we're going to talk about Planned Parenthood, we have to talk about its founder, Margaret Sanger. She's revered by lots of feminists for being a pioneer for women's rights when you don't really see it that way, okay? So, when I was doing research this week about Margaret Sanger, the one quote that always comes up when it comes to pro-life people, the one quote that just puts the nail in the coffin when it comes to her racism, it says, let me pull it up here. It says, we should hire 3 or 4 colored ministers, preferably with social services backgrounds and with engaging personalities. The most successful educational approach to the Negro is through a religious appeal. We do not want the word to go out that we want to exterminate the Negro population, and the minister is the man who can straighten out the idea if it ever occurs to any one of their more rebellious members. On the surface, that sounds very bad, because it is, but there are people who will defend this quote and say that's not what she was really trying to say. She was just trying to say, people may get the wrong idea about her, so she's going to hire some black preachers who know her goal, and they're going to say, oh, she's not bad. She's not trying to exterminate the Negro population. She just wants to help you. So even though I think that's very much a stretch, I wanted to make sure that, what that is true, because unfortunately, she has passed away. She's not here to defend herself, and I'm a nobody on the internet, so I'm not able to ask if she was alive. So she wrote a lot of books. I decided to go get those books. I went to the library. If you have a library, go get a library card. Go to the library, check out some books, read those books, bring them back so you don't get late fees. Libraries, I think, are a lost art in our society that is dying quickly because of Google. So go to the library. Anyways, public service announcement over. I went to the library. They didn't have any books on Margaret Sanger. I went to another library. They didn't have any either. They said that it was at the downtown Dallas library. So I went to the downtown Dallas library, and they had one book, but it was already checked out and late. So perfect. On Amazon, they had a free book called The Pivot of Civilization. On Kindle, if you want to check that out, you can. And I also bought an autobiography on Margaret Sanger at Half Price Books. So I skimmed through that. That book was interesting. The autobiography, that is. She left her family behind to, I guess, go on this journey of promoting birth control and all this other stuff. The book, The Pivot of Civilization, is very, very, very boring. It is really boring. I got through about halfway. I was at this chapter called The Cruelty of Charity. Yeah, you heard me right. The Cruelty of Charity. And when I took a break, because it's just so boring. That book is so boring. Anyways, when I was taking a break to do more research, I come across some quotes from Margaret Sanger, because I'm not going to be buying books from Margaret Sanger, and it's just for research purposes. So I just, let me find some quotes from her instead. And to my surprise, there is a quote from the chapter that I was on. So I'm like, thank God. And I tried to, find that quote that they're quoting on the website in the book, and it's there. This is what it says. That whole chapter is just crazy to me. So in the chapter, The Cruelty of Charity, this is a quote from Margaret Sanger herself that kind of puts that other quote about exterminating the Negro population in perspective. It says, our failure to segregate morons who are increasing and multiplying demonstrates our foolhardy and extravagant sentimentalism. Philanthropists encourage the healthier and more normal sections of the world to shoulder the burden of unthinking and indiscriminate fecundity of others, which brings with it, as I think the reader must agree, a dead weight of human waste. Instead of decreasing and aiming to eliminate the stocks that are most detrimental to the future of the race in the world, it tends to render them to a menacing degree dominant. we are paying for and even submitting to the dictates of an ever-increasing, unceasingly spawning class of human beings who never should have been born at all. Now, I'm not an expert on psychology or sociology or anything like that, but that to me is evil, okay? So, how do you think that other quote sounded? Does it sound like it kind of lines up with that, what she's saying here? Here's some more quotes. I'll give you some more. This one is from a speech in, I guess, like a conference that she had. It's called Birth Control, What It Is, How It Works, What It Will Do, the Proceedings of the First American Birth Control Conference, held at the Hotel Plaza in New York City. She said in the speech, the third group of society are those irresponsible and reckless ones, having little regard for the consequences of their acts or whose religious scruples prevent their exercising control over their numbers. Many of these groups are diseased, feeble-minded, and are of the pauper element, dependent upon the normal and fit members of society for their support. There is no doubt in the minds of all thinking people that the procreation of this group should be stopped. And you notice in those two quotes, she says that all thinking people should agree with me, and all thinking people of the procreation, she's trying to say, you should agree with me because I'm right. She's very condescending to me. And just because you may be a little slow, and just because you may be poor or a pauper, doesn't mean that you can't take care of your kids. I mean, some people, yes, they are mentally ill, they're not fit to have children, and sometimes it does happen, and sometimes we have to take care of them when it comes to, either by donation, by volunteering, or whatever the case may be. But some people who are fit in society have children and they screw up. Take, for instance, Lacey Peterson, and she was pregnant and her husband killed her. They looked like a fine family. There was nothing wrong with them. They were middle class, perfectly fine. Husband ended up being a murderer. So not everyone is perfect, Miss Margaret Sanger. So those two quotes, there's so many more. I'll link it down below. So many quotes that ends up not working in her favor when it comes to, she really didn't mean to say she wanted to exterminate the Negro population. I think that's exactly what she meant. She didn't like people who didn't fit to her standards. So with that being said, when it comes to Planned Parenthood, and she is the founder of Planned Parenthood, I think the foundation and the start of Planned Parenthood had ill intentions. And I think now if you fast forward many years, Roe v. Wade was passed and abortion became legal, and Planned Parenthood is becoming a household name. They changed their strategy, in my opinion, from exterminating black people to getting that money. So now you just have money being the end game of everyone. So they say that they have sex education, but is it really sex education? Oh, here's how to use a condom. Oh, here's how to take birth control. Oops, she accidentally got pregnant. Oh, we'll take care of that for you. Because believe it or not, people are just really stupid and lazy. You can end up using protection in the first part of your relationship, and then for whatever reason, people just stop using protection. Why is that? Why do you stop using protection? You know what that gets you? Pregnant. That's what it gets you. It gets you pregnant. So when it comes to all of this, Planned Parenthood does so much good stuff, and they don't just do abortions, which is true. They do other services, but is it really that much? Is it really? It's not. By the way, it's not. When it comes to these other services that they do, I would have the assumption that those are provided for free because, it's they try to push it as, it's for low income women and, and men that need our services because they get over $500 million in funding from the federal government, aka me and you. So these other services that they do, the breast exams, the pap smears, the birth control, and all this other stuff is funded by the government. But when it comes to abortions, that's not covered by, tax dollars because of the Hyde Amendment. So where the other income comes from, which is their main source of income, by the way. So yeah, if you look at data, okay, this data is coming directly from Planned Parenthood themselves, from their annual reports, which they put out every single year, okay? But we're going to look at the 10-year gap between 2004 and 2014, and all this can be found on liveaction.org, which is a pro-life website. But again, all the numbers that they get from their, the data comes from the Planned Parenthood annual reports. Okay, so in 2004, when it comes to breast exams, breast exams, okay? In 2004, they did 925,000. That's a good number. Lots of people went and got their breast exams. But in 2014, that number dropped 60% to 363,000. Why? Why did that number drop? With all of the breast cancer walks and breast cancer research and all of this other stuff going on, you would think they would increase those numbers. And as far as I know, the funding for Planned Parenthood hasn't been cut yet, not in 2014. So what's the deal? When it comes to pap smears, in 2004, 1,118,000. That's a great number. Lots of them done in 2004. But in 2014, that went down the steepest. It went down to 271,000. Like, that's the main thing for women to get. Pap smears are very important. It's included free in your women's exam every year. But that decrease, that's really major. I mean, that's a huge decrease. And cancer screenings, a combination of services. So the combination of services, which includes the pap smears, breast exam, colonoscopy, cryotherapy procedures, and all this other stuff, it was 2 million total. In 2014, despite adding HPV vaccinations in the category, it declined to 682,000 for all cancer screening services. That is major. And again, you can find all of this data from Planned Parenthood's annual reports. So it's not something that we're skewing numbers on or anything like that. And then when it comes to, just other services in general, they only provide less than 5% of those other services, okay? And that's being generous. It's like 1 or 2% really, but I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt and rounding it up to 5%. So do they really have women's health in mind, or is it that money that they have in mind? Because again, you have to pay for abortions. You can't get one free based on tax money, because that's a violation of the Hyde Amendment. The latest Planned Parenthood report shows that the organization committed 323,999 abortions, recently. I don't know the year. It doesn't say here. Just, looking at it. Let's just say that on the low end, abortions cost $300. $300, not that bad, okay? 323,999 times 300. That number is $97,199,700. That's a lot of money. And that's the low end, remember? Let's just say the high end will go 800. I don't know how much abortions cost. Again, so 323,999 times 800. That's 259,199,200. So that's a significant increase. Again, I guess I don't know if they vary across the board and based on where you are, but that's, a number that you can work with. Based on those numbers, I think that Planned Parenthood really doesn't have the best interest for women. with all of the things that I've said, what are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments down below. Tell me why you're pro-life. Tell me why you're pro-choice. Tell me why you don't care. I don't know. I just want to know your thoughts. And try to keep it succinct and short. People who write long comments, I'm just like it's like reading a Margaret Sanger book. So here's my Twitter. I am into Twitter. I love Twitter now. Like, I had one before and then I made my right wing sister one, and it's fun. I love Twitter. And then also my Instagram, and which I hardly post on, and my Snapchat, which I hardly post on as well. I only post on Twitter. But whatever. So again, let me know your comments and subscribe. Have a great day, y'all, and I'll go do the same. Bye.